Welcome. Our guest today is Christian Espinoza, CEO of Blue Goat Cyber. He's a U.S. Air Force veteran, best-selling author of the book, The Smartest Man in the Room, The Root Cause and the New Solution for Cybersecurity, and one of the country's top experts in cybersecurity for high-risk, high-impact industries like healthcare, software as a service, and medical device manufacturing. Christian has helped organizations ranging from innovative startups to global companies navigate complex regulations and secure FDA approval for life-saving and business-saving technologies. His firm doesn't just protect networks, it protects lives. So if you're ready for a straight shooting look at today's cyber landscape, then this episode's for you. So Christian, I know we're on a tight schedule, so if you don't mind, I'm just going to jump right into some of the questions.
Let's go for it.
I appreciate you being here. All right. So what would you say to a business leader who thinks we're too small to be a target?
I would say your thinking is flawed.
So,
If you think about it like a big parking lot and your business is a car in the parking lot and there's cyber criminals going through the parking lot as fast as they can trying to check every car door, that's basically what's going on. So if your car happens to be the one unlocked, then they're going to steal your car and whatever's in it. And the other thing is more than 60% of small businesses go out of business within 6 months of a cyber data breach. It's important that you actually consider cybersecurity. And you will be a target. You already are a target.
I'm sitting there thinking, like, because I think one of the most frustrating things for people is like, first of all, they probably think it wouldn't happen to me, but when it does, it's like, what can you do about it? Because it's not like, I mean, can you talk a little bit about the criminal element, where they're located, why they don't easily get prosecuted or caught? What are some of the things that businesses probably don't even know exist?
Well, it's a hard thing to understand because it happens sort of like behind closed doors, right? It's digital. So, for instance, I've stood up a system on Amazon before, and then within like 30 seconds, it had been scanned 1,000 times. Like I just stood it up, boom, 1,000 scans. So people are trying to hack into stuff that quickly all the time. So as soon as something is available online, it's constantly being probed and scanned by cyber criminals. And it's not a cyber criminal like typing on the computer. They have tools that do this that probe constantly for a vulnerable system. When they find a vulnerable system, they automatically go the next step and then the next step and the next step. So this is all an automated process. And if you happen to be one of those vulnerable systems, then that cyber criminal is going to get in there and do whatever they want to do, which is typically ransomware. So they can collect money from you to remove the ransom, or the money's a ransom to, give your data back.
Do
So
they
that's
usually get the data back?
There's no guarantee, but typically they do, but there's no guarantee. But if you don't have any protections or any backups, like what options do you have?
It's not like you can call the local cops and say, "Hey, someone stole from me," because they may be halfway around the world and protected through all like. It's like, who do you call?
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing is like, there's not much success in tracking down a cyber criminal. That's a matter of really containment and response at that point, because they could be in a different country like North Korea or China or Iran, countries that don't really have a good relationship with the United States as far as like prosecuting somebody in that country. And most cyber criminals are smart. They're going to route their traffic through multiple countries, so you can't actually tell what country the attacker is residing in.
So this is a nice way of saying the best solution is to solve the cyber security threat before it occurs.
Well, prevention is always better than reaction. Yes.
What are some of the most common questions you get from business owners?
I get quite a few common questions. Most of probably the biggest common question is, where do I start? Is often what people say. I think cybersecurity has been made overly complicated, and it has become very challenging because there's a lot of noise without a lot of clarity. And I think that is one of the biggest challenges, is filtering all the noise. So what I always tell people when they ask where to start, I always say the basics. Do the thing that would give you the things that would give you the biggest return on investment. And these are often very simple things that are often ignored, such as knowing thyself, know your own environment, know what devices are on your environment. Most people don't actually know what's on their environment. Most people don't know what's in their home environment. So if you like use a tool like Fing on your phone to scan your environment, you're probably surprised, like, oh, I didn't know that device is on our network. When did we add that? So if you don't know what's on your environment, you don't know if a cyber criminal is on the environment, and you don't know all the devices you have to update. The second thing is multi-factor authentication. So if somebody steals your password, it doesn't matter. They also have to have your phone. Third thing is any device you put on your network, make sure it's secure. Just taking an IoT device out of the box and installing it doesn't mean it's securely configured. And that's a way an attacker can get in. The fourth thing is simple patching and updating. A lot of people don't have a good handle on patching their applications and their operating systems. So that's something that if you patch everything, there's no vulnerability for someone to get into your environment. And then the last thing I would say is to train your users on phishing emails, but not just that, on like the impersonation attacks where someone tries to pretend they're the CEO. Because my company gets these all the time. People trying to pretend they're me, asking someone on my team to pay an invoice or something. Just educating your team on these sort of attacks is important.
What are some of the questions business owners should be asking? I mean, this is an area where I think most business owners, leaders and managers and executives, they don't know what they don't know when it comes to this world. What are some of the questions they should, you know what the common questions are, what are the questions they should be asking?
Yeah, I believe it's not a matter of when you're going to have a data breach. It's a matter of if you're going to have one. I'm sorry, I believe it's not a matter of if you're going to have one. It's a matter of when you're going to have one. So I think one of the questions a business owner should be asking is, when we have a data breach or a cyber attack against our environment, what are we going to do in the business? And what is the real cost to the business? I think without asking that question, it's kind of esoteric. Like they don't understand like what the real ramification is. But if you actually sit down and ask the question, what happens if we have a data breach? And let's say it's ransomware and it takes our systems offline for 3 days, and work through that answer. It's probably going to make you realize, yeah, we should probably invest some in cybersecurity because maybe we can't even afford to be down 3 days. Maybe we don't even have a method to recover our data. But you have to ask these questions and walk through an exercise in order to really understand the true risk. Because I think without asking those questions, everyone just assumes like it's not going to happen to me, or if it happens, we'll just antivirus will catch it or something, without really understanding the real ramification.
What are some of the hardest lessons that businesses you've worked with have learned the hard way? What are some of you talked about some of the risks, the consequences, like what are they? What are some of the consequences of lapses in cybersecurity?
The biggest consequence that we've witnessed is businesses going out of business, especially small healthcare providers, like a clinic with a team of like 5 doctors and a couple thousand patients. Typically, if they have a data breach, they're required to pay credit monitoring for every record that was stolen. The credit monitoring fees alone can take the company out of business. And especially if you're a small business, you don't have like massive reserves. And a lot of people in small businesses think, well, our cyber insurance will cover it. In case you don't realize, like insurance, they try to find every way possible to not cover a claim. That's how they make their money. And specifically with cyber insurance, if you fill out that application and you erroneously answer any question and they find out about it when there's a data breach, they're not going to provide coverage. So you can't rely on cyber insurance, and you have to have enough runway to cover yourself if there's a data breach. So yeah, the biggest thing I've seen is these businesses unfortunately go out of business. And it's frustrating for me because as an entrepreneur, I know how much effort it takes to build a business, and to have a single cyber incident take my business out of business has to be massively frustrating.
You've said that, first of all, thank you. And on the technical side, but you've mentioned that cybersecurity isn't just a technical issue, it's a people issue. Can you unpack what you mean by that?
I think the biggest problem in cybersecurity is the people and how they communicate cybersecurity. I think it's a matter of, in cybersecurity, people want to be significant, just like in any industry. People in general want to be significant, but in cybersecurity, people get their significance by being so-called smarter than other people, and their ego does what it can do to protect that identity, this I'm smarter than other people identity. And what that results in is all these acronyms, cybersecurity people talking over your head, because if they talk over your head, you don't understand it, then therefore they must be smarter than you. It also results in a lack of collaboration amongst cybersecurity teams because we're always looking for a reason to prove that we're smarter than somebody. And that's what I wrote the whole book about, the smartest person in the room, is that this topic. But particularly when I can't communicate something to a lawyer about how to make their environment more secure because I'm talking in techno jargon, it's going to land on deaf ears, and the lawyer is not going to be more secure. So I think it's a people issue in terms of primarily communication and being able to put the cybersecurity put them in the shoes of the person they're communicating with.
I think as Russell Brunson said, the confused customer always says no.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about your secure methodology, some of the main components and why they're important?
Yeah, my secure methodology is 7 steps I came up with to basically infuse some of that emotional intelligence into the already highly rationally intelligent people in cybersecurity and other high-tech industries. The 7 steps are what ended up working in my first cybersecurity company. I spent a lot of time training my team and letting people go and improving the culture. And the 7 steps that made it in the book are what worked. A lot of them are based on neurolinguistic programming. I'll talk about 3 of the steps here. The first one is awareness. Awareness is something most of us lack. We tend to have awareness in what other people are doing, but we don't have awareness in what we do ourselves. And I think from an awareness perspective, it's important to understand that we have these programs that run in our mind, and these programs are our behaviors. So based on a stimulus, we automatically run this program and we automatically have a default behavior. And if that default behavior is not serving us, we need to have the awareness and make the actionable to change that. An example would be like one of my high-tech engineers in my first company. He would get super nervous when people would ask him questions and would get defensive. So his program was a question's coming, he automatically start getting defensive, and then he would start throwing out these answers to try to prove he knew more than the person asking the question. And that wasn't really helping the scenario. So he needs to have the awareness to do like a control C or stop that program and run a different program that maybe instead of getting defensive and trying to talk over someone, maybe get curious of where that question's coming from. So that's the awareness piece. Having awareness that when we have a stimulus, is the result behavior serving us or hindering us? And if it's hindering us, maybe we should change it.
Gotcha.
So that's like one aspect. Another one is communication. I'm a believer that the meaning or the purpose of communication is the response you get. So what that does, it shifts the ownership to you on how you communicate. So if the person you communicate with just doesn't get it, which a lot of people in cybersecurity will say, that is your fault for not communicating in a way that they do get it. But as humans, we tend to blame the other person. Oh, they just don't understand. Oh, they just don't have the experience. Oh, they're just stupid, whatever. But that is like the wrong, you're not going to get the results you want doing that. On you to change the communication.
Yeah, agreed.
100%.
Agreed.
Yeah, and one of the other steps, I'll go over one more, is monotasking. Monotasking is the antithesis of multitasking. Multitasking makes you very busy, but not very productive. Monotasking, like blocking your day into chunks of 1 hour where you only work on one thing at a time with concentrated focus, makes you productive. Monotasking also makes you a better partner, friend, because if I'm monotasking when I'm out to dinner with my spouse, that means I'm present. I'm not thinking about something else. I'm not on my freaking cell phone. I'm just present with the person I'm with, which makes you a better communicator and a better person in general.
You know, this was something that we talked about offline a little bit, and I wanted to share this with the audience, but because I would have never thought of this. But I know that Blue Goat Cyber specializes in protecting medical devices. That caught me off guard. I never thought that was an issue. But what makes that space so vulnerable, and why is it even an issue?
There's a few reasons. One, it's been a highly neglected space. There's been this assumption that healthcare environments like a hospital network are secure. That assumption is false. We consider hospital networks hostile networks. We already consider them being compromised. So you put a medical device on a hostile network, that medical device needs to be secure. So that's one reason. The other reason is more and more of these devices are starting to become interconnected or connected to the internet in some capacity or connected to a mobile application. So there's more ways into the device now. And the third reason is there's more and more of these devices being created every year.
So if you've got a CEO out there of a big company and they've got a pacemaker and you're a cyber criminal and you can go in there, you can basically hold them hostage for a ransom without having to kidnap them. Am I right?
That is my objective. Yeah. I mean, this happened with Dick Cheney. He had his wireless functionality of his defibrillator disabled because there was a legitimate threat. Somebody from a fairly far distance could wirelessly connect to his defibrillator and shock him to death. So yeah, if you have someone that has a vulnerable implantable, then yeah, you could hold them hostage and demand some money or what other demands and say, I'm not going to kill this person unless you pay me this money. So it's a weird scenario to find yourself in.
I would have never even thought about this stuff had I not met you. If you could give one piece of advice, of cybersecurity advice to every CEO or business owner listening right now, what would it be and why?
It would be to take ownership of cybersecurity. Because as a business owner, we take ownership over marketing and sales and accounting and all these other things, but we sort of just like tune out with cybersecurity. But I think with the amount of risk with cybersecurity, it's something you have to tune into and take responsibility over it and stop checking out about it. So I would say that. I would say tune into it and figure out how to do the basics. And if several people are telling you all these complicated things, find a firm or a consultant that will simplify it for you and meet you where you are. I think that's important.
Speaking of consultants, that's your wheelhouse. tell people how they can learn more about you and your company and what's the best way for them to engage with your company in this area of expertise.
Yeah, they can go to bluegoatcyber.com. We're also on all social media, and we have a podcast and a few other things. So people can just type in Blue Goat Cyber or my name in Google, and you'll find us pretty much all over the place.
And your book is The Smartest Man in the Room?
My book is The Smartest Person in the Room, and it is available on Amazon and Audible and most bookstores as well.
Christian, thank you so much for setting aside the time. It's always a pleasure to see you, and I hope that our listeners and viewers take away as much from this as I did. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Mason.